How would you like to help someone struggling with trauma, depression, or anxiety, or some sort of mental health issue? Keita Franklin will tell us how to do it. And what's so special about Keita is she's a national federal policy leader with over 25 years of experience leading public health and mental health programming for veterans, military service members, and their families. This is also for you if you are personally struggling with a mental health or depression or anxiety issue. And I have suffered from depression, so I may know how you feel as well. So, Keita, tell us more about what can someone do who has, let's say, a family member or a friend struggling with a mental health issue.
Heal Podcast with Lily Patrascu shares longevity and anti-aging techniques to stay young forever, increase energy, overcome addiction, and live your longest, best life ever. Shared by world's most innovative, alternative, and traditional health thought leaders, healers, and doctors. Discover quantum healing strategies to heal your mind, body, and soul.
It's such a good question. And you should know just out of the gate that mental health issues are more common than not. And we have a tendency in our society to not talk about them because there's just this big stigma attached to sort of raising your hand and saying, I need help, or I'm struggling with a mental health issue. But if you are struggling with symptoms of cancer, or if you're struggling with allergies, you would definitely go in and get help. And, we that work in the field want mental health to get to that same level where people are willing and able to sort of share, just like you did on your intro, like I've struggled and it's okay if you're not okay, and we can help each other get to a better place. So I appreciate being with you today and being asked the question. So in terms of what to do, like if you yourself are struggling or you're worried with about somebody that's struggling with an issue, certainly like out of the gate, one of the first things is to get help from someone. And we recommend in the field that, that there are simple things. You can get help from a peer, from a friend, and really just reality test what's going on in your mind. Really, we're trying to figure out, is this a normal reaction to a normal event, or has it gotten to like a clinical state where we want to get you in for mental health care, like get you into a therapist, which there's different tracks and different things, but know that one, you're not alone, and two, there's help available both from your network and also from professionals.
Thank you. What would you say someone could do like on a practical level in terms of like a routine? Because I remember like I'm generally very positive, and to the outside world, like you would never know that I'm depressed. Okay. Like I'm depressed now, but I was depressed for a long time, and nobody would know because I organize these large events. I smile. I organize a lot of parties. Like you would never know that I struggle with this issue. But I did. And I found that, like when, the event closes, and then I think that there was there were a lot of triggers. Okay. You can say that the first trigger was kind of linked to things that happened in childhood where, for example, imagine you organize an event with 250 people. Everyone has a lot of fun. Everyone is telling me, oh my God, I had a lot of fun. And I met so many interesting people. I'm doing so much business. But the thing that I'm finding is like everyone is getting what they wanted and I didn't. And what I mean by that is that the event finishes and nobody's there to help to pack up. Okay.
Yep.
And there's like a gazillion bags of, stuff to carry. And I'm there at like 3 a.m. I look like I'm moving house,
Right.
with a gazillion bags, nobody to help. So there's just that moment of feeling abandoned and feeling, I'm not sure if unwanted, but definitely abandoned and like nobody cares about me. Like everyone just cares about themselves. Okay. And it kind of reminds me of this moment in like childhood when my father left me and when like I was home alone a lot. Okay. And then the other thing, it's little things that kind of tend to trigger me. And I'm assuming that maybe for someone struggling with trauma, depression, and anxiety, it's little tiny things. Like, for example, let's say someone goes out on a, let's say you're working in a group, and then like everyone goes out for lunch and they don't invite you. It's just a little tiny thing that can trigger this. So I'm wondering, how does someone like monitor these little triggers, and how do they cope with these triggers so that they can kind of be on their way to recovery?
Right. Such a good question, because part of it is to know that they're your triggers. Like, believe it or not, like you in your example, I know you're just providing an example for us to, a real example, but to generate some rich conversation about it. Many people don't even understand that they're their triggers. So I say you're halfway out of the gate. You're halfway there by knowing like, okay, this is my trigger. Let me slow down. Let me take a deep breath, and then let me reality test this. Is it a pattern over time that I'm never invited, or is this an isolated incident in time? So that's why it's so important to have like a good friends in your network, good peers that you can reality test and say, I'm feeling this, but I want to double check with you. And they'll say, no, that was a team meeting. In fact, they needed to go. It was going to be a working lunch. Like sometimes you just don't know until you like reality test it. And we in the field sometimes we'll call it like stinking thinking. Like I have to test my stinking thinking. I'm just not sure if what I'm seeing is reality. And then if it is, in fact, a pattern over time, and maybe you are facing exactly what you think you're facing. And in that case, like it's a good opportunity to sort of reassess those that you have around you. Are you in the right places? Are you reaching out to the right people and building your best resource in that case is a support system. In the same example with like these events, right? Like, did I set the expectations right? Did I make sure folks know that, yes, this is between, 8 to 10, and then the cleanup is from 10 to midnight, and I need a team there, or, so that expectations are set so that you're not feeling like you're carrying the weight and you put on this big thing for folks and you're underappreciated and undervalued and abandoned when the going gets rough. But the big thing I say about like these issues around mental illness is really like, is it impacting your ability to perform your day-to-day, like we say in the field, like activities of daily living? So like, are you doing your hygiene? Are you waking up and getting out of bed? Are you going to work? Are you performing as a mom, as a spouse? Are these mental health struggles and thoughts coming into your mind in such a way that they're getting in the way of your day-to-day activities? And if that's the case, then you do know that it's time to probably seek professional care. So move it from the peer level to providing checking in with a therapist, which is also not easy. And we can talk more about that, just like finding the right match, getting connected, making sure that, you're sometimes people connect and the first one is just not always the one for you. It can be a little bit of a dance for a bit till you find the right person.
Thank you. For me, for example, I find it that I get quite a lot of anxiety when, let's say, if I send an email to my list and people unsubscribe.
Yes.
It gives me anxiety.
Yes.
For that is because, like, imagine, like, I'm here trying to help, trying to like give you opportunities, and then when, let's say, sometimes I have like podcasting guests that I love so much and they're phenomenal on the podcast, and they say, oh, and I say, okay, I'm going to email you some speaking opportunities. And like yesterday, I was messaging someone in WhatsApp, and the first thing she wrote was stop. It's almost like I felt like, but I'm a person, like you were on my podcast, like you were wonderful. And I would think the least I would expect is just for you to tell me, sorry, I'm not interested in this, not like just stop. I'm not like a robot, like I'm a person. So it's like, how does someone deal with, you can say things that can be a little bit stupid in terms of triggers, but they do kind of like trigger someone into anxiety or trauma, or like into like.
Yeah, I think also you bring up such a good point. Like small slights happen, and one here and again is not a big deal, but if it starts having a pattern over time, it would be sort of built up. And then what I also offer is just when you're interacting with situations like this, I would not undervalue the importance of very basic things that like everybody knows from a place of humanity. Even when people are not kind with us, small acts of kindness, giving them grace. It says a lot when somebody's sort of writing these messages back, and obviously they must be coming from a place that's not okay. You perhaps also want to pull back and protect yourself from future, like, I'm not going to give and have somebody come and sort of not carry their part of the relationship weight, if you will. So I say like small acts of kindness, being present with people who are struggling. Like sometimes there are no answers. Like there are, particularly in this day and age, I just experienced this myself recently where I had to stop and say, my goodness, like this world is, not always a kind place. I was at a local winery, and I had parked kind of close to the line in my parking spot. And I got out and I wasn't on the line, but I was close to it. And I saw I was uneven in my spot. And I thought, well, it's okay. At least I'm in my spot. And I went in and I came out and somebody had written me a nasty note and put it on my windshield that like I didn't park properly. And I thought, is that really what is this world has come to, that you went and got a pen and a paper and you don't know me and you wrote this nasty note and you left it for a complete stranger on their, which like, it's a terrible time, I think, in some cases, that somebody is so empowered to do something like that. When I was in my spot, but just not perfectly in there, like I was over to the edge a little closer, that I wasn't centered, you could say. And it just gave me a reminder of how we do need to practice small acts of kindness and making sure that we have compassion and empathy in a world that sometimes doesn't give it back to us, which is also hard to do, not easy. Yeah.
Thank you. Tell us about The Humanity Cure, the book you've written, and tell us about some small acts of kindness that we could do in return for, you can say, nasty things that people do. Give us
Right.
some examples so we can understand better of like the kind of nasty things some people could do, and how could you respond, and how could you protect your mental health in a way that you still feel centered, you still feel empowered and
Right.
positive in the light of extreme nastiness that happens.
Right. I know it's been on my mind. So I've been working on this book called The Humanity Cure, which is really, it came to light from my work, in the field of mental health, and the realization of just how difficult it is to find a therapist, and how that is usually our one-stop answer. Like if someone is struggling with a mental health issue, the first thing in the field is like, get them into therapy. Boom, 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 as if it's that easy, right? Too. Do they have insurance? Do they have access to care? Is the therapist a right match to them? Do they specialize in the right things? Like it is complicated getting into care, but that's our first and only single direct line. Do not pass go. You go right into therapy. And I begin to think, there's so many other things. And I'm, in the mental health field myself as a social worker, and I definitely am a big advocate of mental health. So don't get me wrong, but there's so many other things that can happen that can improve people's lives. And those are things like, basic everyday things that are available to like all of your listeners and you and I both, like making sure people feel like they belong. I mean, you know what it's like when you're on a team or when you're in a group setting and you feel really like you belong, like you're included. It is powerful for people to feel connected when you have like a close tribe around you, a close group of girlfriends, or a good neighborhood and network where you're connected. That is powerful, and it buffers against mental health issues. So you talked about these like triggers. When you build up what we call in the field, fancy word, but protective factors or buffers against risk, it buffers against those triggers. So the more I feel like I belong, I feel included, I have a close network, I feel connected. Oh, and I've been around me where people have displayed small acts of kindness. And maybe when I was struggling, someone just sat with me in silence and just stayed with me though, and told me that it was okay, that I'm not okay. Powerful stuff right there. Not saying that we should do all that in the absence of mental health care, but I bet like a big amount of our mental health burden in the nation would be released if we had some of that going on. Like many people would no longer be calling 50 therapists and finding if there's an appointment on Tuesday on their one day off, it would balance it. So I know that was the first part of your question, which was really the sort of, what is the book about? How did it come to be? And the second part was everyday acts of small kindness. So the more I start researching for the book, I start to see literally in the research, these very small things that people can do for people that have big, huge outsized impact. And I mean, everything from just like a smile at someone on the bus who's having like an incredibly horrific day, is on their way to their cancer treatment, or you just don't know where people are coming from on their, on their worst days, to like, hello, good morning, just small things, to, more substantial things where I'll have somebody say, at a single point in time, they had a conversation with a complete stranger who shared with them about this medical school that takes students and pays for med school. And they'd always wanted to be a doctor, but they knew they could never afford medical school. And nor did they have the resources or means or know that there were a few medical schools in the nation that offer free tuition. What? If you're willing to like live in rural America, or you're willing to like, work 3 years afterward in a underserved area, they have these like, and so they'll pass somebody on like a single moment in time and they'll learn about that. They will then go take that info, research it, go do these, like figure it out, get accepted, become a doctor. And they will say, had it not been for this person in line behind me at Starbucks one day who told me about this med school, I would not be where I am today. And they'll tell you these stories, whether it's like in an official capacity at like big brother, big sister programs, mentoring programs, or just a passerby in line at the coffee shop. And they'll say, it changed my life forever. So the more I started researching and pulling the thread on this, the more I was like, there's something there for the ripple effect of small acts of kindness, not only for the person receiving them, but for the person giving them. Like it's this reciprocal feedback loop, because think about the times when you've done some small act of kindness. Don't you feel good? Like it feels so good to like help someone. And then when they leave you, they then likely go help someone else because they remember their interaction with you, that you were helpful to them and now they're helping someone else. And I just think about the power of this like ripple effect of all these small acts over time for like helping like build people up and helping people who are doing good do great, and helping people who are maybe struggling, do better.
Thank you. Tell us about, how does someone build the resilience? Imagine someone is dealing with someone who is struggling with trauma, depression, or anxiety, and let's say they have become relatively snappy. How do you basically, as a person, become sort of like resilient in the face of people who are snappy around you, who are, like snapping back and being rude, but just because they're struggling with something, because hurt people hurt people. So what are the kind of like routines that someone could put in place to build that, that's emotional strength to deal with people who push them away or are rude, or they're, I'm not sure violent necessarily, but people that are not reacting in a way that you would want.
Couple things. One, I strongly recommend people think about these folks in the context of, obviously there's more going on. There's something other than, I always say, this is not about mine and your current interaction. Like, I recognize this as something other than their behaving this way has little to do, likely, with your and they current interaction. It's like a symptom of something bigger and more deeper rooted. And so I offer that we continue with our with our, moments of grace and kindness, but we also protect ourselves from like inappropriate emotional abuse or being taken advantage of or being on the receiving end of the next nasty comment. So we do still put boundaries up, and we do still protect ourselves. And I so appreciate your question, because I've had to do this in my own life more times than I can count, where I've had to have either time limited interactions. Maybe I know this person is not good in the morning, so I interact with them after 12 noon. Maybe I know this person is, not continually has those behaviors. And so I do have to like keep a distance. And then the other thing I've recommended people do sort of share what they see. Like, you'll ask them, are you okay? Like, is everything okay? Like, I noticed that you're kind of short. Are things okay with you? Do you need some space? And if they continue to tell you yes, then I say, okay, well, you tell me you're okay, but this is what I see. So check in on ask them, because you're on an olive branch and you're not always sure if they're okay. And when you open that door, you will be surprised what people share with you when you ask them if they're okay. There are people that get asked, and I work in the field of suicide prevention. There are people that get asked, like, are you all right? Are you thinking of ending your life by suicide? You might not even know them well. And the things that they will tell you are unreal. But if you ask and you sense they're giving you the, I'm fine, thanks, when you know they're not, say, okay, well, here's what I see. I see short, abrupt answers that are delivered with a harsh tone, and I want to make sure you're okay, because it doesn't feel good to me. And so say like what you see and how it makes you feel, and then protect yourself too, because you shouldn't be on the receiving end of folks that are obviously not willing to get help for their own, even when you're like trying your best to give them grace.
Thank you. Tell us about some small acts of kindness, of self-kindness and self-love that could help someone that is personally struggling with trauma, depression, or anxiety.
Yes, such a good question too, because I do recommend that we try to give ourselves a break at times in the context of all that we do. It's a busy society. It's a busy time. People just stay right on the go. And so if you've, committed yourself to something and it gets to that day and it's not your day to be doing that, then then allow it. And I say, surround yourself with people that are okay if you allow it. I said I would go on this outing on Friday night. Come Friday, I am incredibly tired and exhausted. I know that's not for me. I'm going to take a break this Friday. You guys go without me. I can't wait to hear how it went. Like give yourself time to, so people will say like, regroup, to re-energize. So definitely that. And then I also say, like, think about what does calm your central nervous system. Like, for me, I love being near the water, and I always love a cup of hot tea. Like those are and if I have two of those together, it is like a good day, right? Like I can almost feel my central nervous system calming down. But what is it for others? Is it like being out in nature? Is it having a good book? Is it taking a walk and listening to a good podcast? Like what brings you to that place? And then purposely plan it into the context of your day so that it's not happening as a by the way happenstance. It's embedded into the fabric of your life, Usually we try to get people also to think about the things in the context of doing something physical, something that's also an emotional release, something that's also in some cases spiritual. When people can connect at a spiritual level, they can, which I'll hear people talk about nature or being by the water. Also, there are other things that are spiritual. For some people, it's going to church. For some people, it's having a good conversation with a friend. It feels very, spiritual. So I say, find what works for you too.
Thank you. Tell us where entrepreneurs can connect with you.
Yeah, so people can connect with me on various social media platforms. Dr. Keita Franklin. I'm on LinkedIn and Instagram and Facebook, and I just would love to hear from people. I'd love to hear their small acts of kindness. I would also love to hear what's on their mind when it comes to things like mental health and trauma and suicide prevention.
Thank you.
Follow me for more interviews with world's most innovative health change makers to live your healthiest life ever.